performance parts.
SEMA and pretty much racing or modifying, the EPA trying to sneak past a bill that would ban she's the head of the EPA, and your car she doesn't know be used on the street, on the ground, or at a track. So we have this lady, her name is Regina McCarthy. She has a bachelor in social anthropology. How is that related? So the EPA is trying to make it so you cannot drive a modified car on the street or at the track. If the bill passed that SEMA barely caught, you would not be able to buy performance aftermarket parts for your car, and on top of that, most likely they're trying to push it so you're not even going to be able to work on your car. So this whole thing is just a big pyramid scheme that the EPA is probably working with the factory OEMs to get it so you cannot do, it's illegal for you to do anything to your vehicle. So pretty much aftermarket modifications would be illegal, and anything that anything other than a stock car that gets worked on at the factory OEM would be illegal. You wouldn't be able to drive it on the street or at a racetrack, which is total bullshit. So we have these two idiots. So the first one is the head of the EPA. Her name's Regina McCarthy, and to go with that, she has a degree in something that's not even related. In 2015, the Senate tried to have her impeached. She is employed under Barack Obama, which is the second idiot. Well, depending on your preference, he's probably the first idiot and then she's the second idiot, because neither of them know a damn thing about the EPA or how emissions work or even how the environment works, because these idiots are trying to get all these laws passed. FAA just enacted a law on all drone or model airplane users with no vote. It was a law, you had to have all your drones registered, no ifs, ands, or buts, and you had to pay for this. So this is turning into a socialist country. So the government tells you what you have to do and you do it. Just like this automotive thing, SEMA is trying to fight it. They barely caught it. And now, with luck, we may get enough petitions signed. If we don't get enough petitions signed, this bill's going to pass and say goodbye to all your fun things that you get to do with your race cars or your project cars, because I have probably, I'd say, 4 or 5 race cars, and what would I do with them? Because nobody would buy them. They would be illegal. So I'd have all these parts, all this money, all this time invested. All these companies have all this time invested in it. SEMA is a huge industry. Hundreds of thousands of companies that employ hundreds of thousands of people are going to be out of business if this law passes. And our president is going on the sole action that it's an environmental issue. EPA forgets they have a short under the rug. There's a attention span, I guess, because recently there was an issue in Flint, Michigan. There's a high level of toxic lead in the groundwater, and it seems like somebody must have paid them off, because you don't hear about that very much anymore. It was brushed around the river orange. You don't hear much about that spill that happened in the river in Colorado. They never even investigated it. I wonder who paid them off for that. It must have been a mining company or an oil company. It's kind of fishy when all this stuff that the EPA is supposed to protect us against that actually is causing harm, like lead and toxic chemicals in drinking and groundwater, they're nowhere to be found. But when it has something to do with air pollution and something that's unrelated to air pollution, race cars. So race cars, I'm sure they cause some emissions into the atmosphere, but how many race cars in the United States are running at the same time? Under 100,000? That'd be my bet. I have no facts to back that up. Don't quote me on that, but there's more cows in Texas creating CO2 out of their assholes than there are race cars driving at the same time in a day. Let's get it right there. In a day, there's more cows having shit farts coming out of their asshole creating CO2 than there are race cars on the track, on the road. You have more cows creating CO2, which is an industry created by fast food and McDonald's and Burger King, and all these fast food shithole places have all these cows just stuffed in the same spot, shitting farts out of their asses. And you want to come at me and say my fucking shit is going to be illegal because you have some agenda to push? I think that's total bullshit. And to have it not even be voted on by the people that it's going to be affecting, all the industry, all the lives. There's so many. Automotive is a part of American culture since the beginning. Since the first automobile was invented, it has been part of the American dream. It's fucking part of America, and telling us that our hobbies and our lifestyle is going to be illegal, and we're not going to be able to do it. We can't modify a car to race on a racetrack. We can't modify a car to drive on the street. You know something? That's okay for all these EPA tree hugging, cow fart smelling fucks, but it's not for me. I like the smell of exhaust. And the funny thing about my drift car, my race car, is it's CNG, so it produces zero emissions. It has as much emissions as that trash truck that exploded when a CNG tank blew up and shot a big fireball into the atmosphere. You have a big natural gas leak in California that, where's the EPA on that? It's just leaking in the atmosphere. You know how natural gas affects the atmosphere? Natural gas is what brought us out of the last ice age. You're telling me there's a leak in California of natural gas and it's just been leaking for months? And it's probably going to be leaking for another 6 months? And you want to tell me I can't drive a race car at the track because it's producing too much emissions? You have so many things that are causing our climate to warm, that are caused by big industry, that are paying the EPA off. And nobody wants to investigate it, but it needs to happen because the EPA is corrupt. And I don't want to be one of those conspiracy theorists, and I don't believe I am, but I'm trying to back this up with facts. There was an issue in Flint, Michigan, there's an issue in Colorado, and there's an issue in California, and they're all swept under the rug because somebody has enough money to pay them off to get it off the media. The media is obviously government controlled, and this country's become a socialist country. You can't do anything unless the government concedes to it. Just like the drone thing. I'm not going to get my drone registered. Do I even have one? But if I did, I'm not going to get it registered because you know something? FAA doesn't have control on small aircraft that are under 400 feet, so they can go fuck themselves. I think it's a pretty big issue because if the car community doesn't get together and collaborate on this, we are going to be screwed because the EPA is going to pass this law. It's going to go through, it's going to be passed, and our way of life, and a lot of people's way of life, even if they're not related to the car culture, in the world somehow is affected by the automotive industry. And racing and modifying cars is a huge, huge part of that. So if this law is passed, this country is going to go in the shitter. So if you guys like this video, subscribe to my channel. Any comments, put them in the comments below, and we'll have a discussion about this. I think it's this issue is bullshit. and we can have a discussion on what everybody thinks. Share this as much as you can. Make sure to share it if you have a strong feeling like I do to get the word out. Share this with your friends and anybody that you think might want to help the car community out and kill this bill before it passes and kind of shut down the EPA with their big heads. Thank you guys.